All right, we are streaming once again. Um, I'm gonna hope that the rain does not end up doing what it did last week. I shouldn't even blame the rain for that because the internet just has been really non-stable for the last few weeks, and a lot of it does have to do with the rain and messing up the cords and various other wires and things like that. But I hope we don't have that today. I really do because I'm not really in the mood to have to keep repeating myself. um, if I could, I guess, start this off with something, I'll say it's been a pretty annoying week because I've begun the process for fixing some stuff with this uh, vehicle, and I've had like I'm not joking, the most toxy turvy run around experience where you'll have one place that says you need to do this, then you go over there and they tell you that you need to get this, then you go there and they say, oh no, you actually also need this, and it's been a really just irritating period. Uh, and it all started on Monday, and it pretty much continued all the way up until this morning because I still had to go to another place. Oh man, God, I'll never not be astonished by the weather out here. Sometimes you can have a perfectly sunny day where the sky is completely apparent and you get birds chirping. People are all out having fun, and then the day or 2 days later after that, you have just pouring rain all over the place. It's so wildly inconsistent, and it drives me nuts because, you know, I really don't like rain at all, and I especially don't like it when I have to go out in it. So, it's just really annoying. The weather sometimes, like, when it's sunny, it's nice, but that little sunny period is always short-lived, and we go to raining right after that. It changes very rapidly. Yeah, I'm really annoyed by the climate currently. Oh man, I had this script I was writing for a video. I don't know if I'll end up doing it or not, because I think I mentioned before. A lot of times I'll have an idea and it sounds good in my head, not like an opening statement, closing statement. But then the stuff in between is kind of what starts the process of me just becoming more and more I don't want to say disenfranchised with doing it, but kind of not as open to doing it as far as, I can't figure out what else to put here. Hey, don't get political, Akatsuki merchant. There's no such thing as the environment changing, or you know that doesn't exist. We have to pretend that this is all natural and normal occurrences that would be happening anyway. And there's no such thing as the scientific community. We just pretend all that stuff isn't happening because we don't want to upset anybody with reality. Well, it's a scientific fact that people like I said, I'll never not be amazed by how, because I told you I've been following, politics for a while, just for the last regularly and just consistently since 2013, but also just kind of seeing stuff growing up. And it'll never not amaze me that we have a national party that completely rejects the idea of the environment impacting things. That'll never not be something I'm astonished by. Like, imagine taking an issue about the environment, this thing that people can it's we know for a fact can influence by pollution and all types of other various ways of messing things up, and taking this whole issue and going, oh no, we don't believe that's happening. No, that I don't buy it. That's really nuts. And it's like, I don't know what's worse, the fact that there's an entire party where their position is this is not real, even though all the scientists say it is, or that they're very successful at winning elections. Like this level of lunacy is tolerated by people. They're fans of it. They like it. Well, here's the thing, right? Whenever you have a bunch of people running for office, you're gonna have someone who says something weird, someone who says something you don't agree with, whatever. But it's like you have an entire. I'm not even joking. If I were to put on one, I could probably out of all the politicians that have been elected over like the last 10 years from the GOP, I could probably name maybe like 5 of them that acknowledge. I'm talking about like ones in Congress, the ones that actually vote on environmental stuff. There's maybe like 4 or 5 of them that acknowledge climate change. Like the rest of the party is like, no, I don't buy that. Yeah, right. Yeah, the environment. Yeah, you over there with your save the trees. Not, and I'm just sitting here like, they really believe this crap. I'm telling you, man, and it's even more scary when we were talking about the oligarchy and how like a lot of these people believe that for the same reason they don't believe in gun control, where there's a paid group that gives them financial incentives to ignore certain things or to have a certain position. So we talked about how various fossil fuel companies will go and pay some congressman or senator some money, and then that person will vote down any climate related bill that will put some regulations in place to protect the environment. Um, Stuff like that's just it's so scummy. Because the sad part is by the time stuff hits the fan and people are really like going to be hurt by the environment getting worse and worse, a lot of these older either members of Congress or lobbyists are going to be deceased, so they're not going to be affected by it anyway. It would be like if someone told me in 100 years, if we continue the way we're going, the entire planet will just evaporate. Like it'll just combust in the flames, all be gone. They'll be like, oh well, I'll be deceased anyway, so I don't care. But you should care because do you not care about your fellow man, your fellow human being? It's such a just strange mindset to me, man. I'll never get people with this stuff. They do a lot of weird things that make no sense to me. Given our current projections in this year, it's predicted we could face total climate catastrophe by 2030. It's not hard to believe that. You look at the landfills, you look at the fossil fuel companies, all this gas and carbon dioxide and the rest of this stuff. I'm fully convinced that it's something that could happen. By I'm probably going to say if it's not that year, it'll be maybe 2 years later, 3 years later. But this is unsustainable. It's really, really sad. Very much, meaning we could very much live to see our planet die. Now, see, if the world was run by people who had some intelligence and forward thinking and a little bit of like compassion for, just their fellow man, you would actually see, agencies like the UN and NATO and the rest of them, um, try to call for some kind of armistice or just universal peace agreement between the various countries that they're going to handle issues relating to the environment as a collective. Because I remember this one broad. Um, do I want to identify that person's nickname? Okay, I'll just say Triple L because that was who I'm talking about. But I remember I was discussing this thing with her where she was trying to say that when we were, I think it was this is maybe like 3 years ago when we were messing with Iran and putting sanctions on them. Oh, it's not war, it's sanctions. It's like when you put sanctions on a country, and I even put up the Mike Gravel clip, you are trying to use economic hardships as a way of pressuring the people and the person who's in charge to go along with your pattern of thinking. So that's why I was saying the environment is such a sad case because instead of putting all these stupid sanctions on other countries, we should partner with them to do something about it since we're all going to be affected by it. But people just they don't care. It's like humanity is marching straight towards its own extinction. Well, yeah, you see that, pretty much every day over here. I mean, you look at the fact that we're 4% of the world's population, the US, right? But we have almost half the guns. There's a mass shooting every day. Um, I mean, it's funny how hard it is to live, but how easy it is to die. I'll never not be amazed by that, just how if you want to live somewhere, some of these apartments cost 2,000 a month. Some of these jobs have the hire to fire Ponzi scheme where they get people and hire them either part-time or full-time for like 2 or 3 weeks before they drop them over something stupid. And how all this stuff together just makes for an unstable, um, just mess of an attempt to actually be independent. But then if you want to die, you can just go to um, any given part of America, and there's a good chance someone will just start opening fire and get you. Or, um, if you want to talk about East Palestine, I mean, there's a lot of it's really interesting just how easy it is to just meet your end nowadays. So we are definitely marching towards our own extinction, but we're too short-sighted to see it. Oh man. We're just a really sad group of people. We don't care about each other. We saw on the computer trying to call somebody out of their name or messing with them, but actually doing something that helps people, you won't see a majority of us do. And that's not even just America. That's just all over the place. It's really, really sad. If the world does end by climate collapse, I'll just embrace it and live out my final moments like any other day. It's just really crazy to think that this issue could have been fixed, but a bunch of money convinced a fairly small group of people, because it's not like the majority of citizens were just like, forget it, we don't care if everything goes to hell. But it's scary that such a small group of people had so much power, but they would have rather used it in the wrong way to enrich themselves than actually helping others. It's tell you, man, money is so corrupting. If you stick enough coins in front of somebody, you'll be amazed by just how much they can change. Telling you, people are so insane. Like, It's really, really sad. Let me see. What else was I gonna say? There was something else I was thinking of. I don't know. It's just when you really think about this stuff, it does get kind of depressing. Oh man, there was another thing that happened. I'm trying to remember because I was trying to do this video on China, and I was having such a hard time like just sitting down and writing it. And that's not the same one I was talking about earlier. That's another thing that was in the pipe. Um, I don't know. I just couldn't get motivated to, I guess, see it through. Just kind of put pen to paper, look up stuff. I said before, anytime I have something I want to do, I'll probably. It's always best to just hyper focus on it, like just ignore everything else and just have that singular, desire to see that through. Because when you start having this video and that video and this video and that, it is extremely easy to feel overwhelmed. No, it's hard to be a fan of a lot of this stuff. Oh, I forgot to mention. So I went to the market earlier today, like right before I streamed. I came and put all the stuff inside the refrigerator. And I go to the market every Saturday and a lot of times on Monday as well, just to go and grab something else. Usually that I might have missed. And what was so jarring to me is that I went there today like I normally do. And usually what happens is there's a big parking lot of like 4 or 5 rows, right? And each row has roughly 10, 20 slots for people to put their cars in. There's a whole bunch of them. And I go up there and I'm perplexed because as I'm driving around, I'm seeing all of these cars just filling out the rows, like just a whole bunch of cars, row to row to row to row. And I've never seen so much just like I've never seen it that full before. It's really weird. So I start to drive and it's like, there's no way they've taken every single spot. I mean, come on, that's crazy. But sure enough, as I go to the side, I see this big line of people who are all like bunched up together. And I'm thinking to myself, what in the world could possess so many people to come out here in the rain and stand outside waiting for, something or whatever? Like that's weird. That's not something I've seen. It's not something I would do. It's not a thing I'm used to noticing. And sure enough, it was the opening of a new store. And I was like, wow, that was enough of an incentive for people to crowd the area and make it to where I had to park in a neighborhood and walk roughly 10 or 15 minutes just to get to the market and then walk back with my groceries in hand, which is very strange for me because usually when I leave out the market, I pull the cart up and stick the stuff in the trunk or in the back seat. And I couldn't do that. I had to walk all the way back with all this stuff in my hand. It was just really obnoxious. And I hope we don't have anything like that again anytime soon because walking as far as I did with the amount of stuff I had was no fun. What's worse is that I would say most stuff I get is not heavy, it's like little frozen stuff. But someone wanted something else, so I got it for them, and it was quite heavy. Not heavy like I'm breaking my back or anything, but just like, man, if this weren't here, this stuff would be so much lighter. You saw how bad the hurricane in Florida was. The weather is just gonna get worse over the years, and people eventually start getting hurt and even dying. Yeah, and unfortunately, the same people that they support currently are gonna be the ones that do them in. And that's really sad because I don't think elected officials should, you know, basically kowtow to the parts of the population that are less interested in actually doing something about this stuff. I think you know what I'm talking about, where I think it's really sad that people who are in leadership roles are controlled by the people that give them money. Like I just find that to be so hypocritical. Like this person will stick their finger up and go, when I get in there, I will do that. And then right after that, they go in a little backdoor meeting and they're like, dance, puppet, you know. By the way, I was watching this week my congressperson's um interview. They had an interview maybe 2 weeks ago, and it was bad. I mean, this person, because what I've said repeatedly is that people can say they support something, but when they're in office, do they actually show their support for it, introduce bills relating to it, whatever, right? And I was sitting here just watching the video because I feel like when someone gets interviewed and they're an elected official, they should talk about, like, just give me an example. If I'm the governor of California and you bring me on TV, I'm going to talk about the hurricane. I'm going to talk about the weather, dealing with the issues of the homeless. This person goes on this interview and they're talking about their background and what advice they were given. And look, I'm just going to say it. I really am not a fan of this congressperson because they're one of these people that got in by virtue of playing the political game of the ladder climbing. Oh, this person that had the seat before me, they just got elected to something else. So, but that's okay because now they're going to endorse me, and so is the governor and the lieutenant governor and the treasury secretary. And I hate that stuff because, and I've tried to explain to people before, when someone gets all those endorsements and they have no real competition, you're not even really voting for them. You're seeing a name that people have told you is good and blindly playing follow the leader with it. So I really because this person is saying that they support certain things I do, but I don't know if I buy it. They've only been there for a few months. Yeah, whatever. It shouldn't take 5 terms to call out the governor after while all these homeless people are laying around. That's why I said I really hope we get some stronger opposition to these people. Because you know what it is. I just want the representative to be part of the community. I mean, I swear, and I feel like I'm someone who keeps up with stuff fairly regularly. I looked on the ballot. I went around my district. I didn't see one advertisement for this person. I didn't see one rally that they held. We're in such a backwards era that winning candidates, people who actually win, right? They don't do anything. They just run and they get endorsed by a bunch of other empty suit people that stand for nothing. And they're able to win because basically there's no one running against them. And that's really sad. Like your democracy is a bunch of people who get elected because they have friends who endorse them and no serious competition. Because if I was a person who was running for the House, for example, or any other statewide position, um, I would knock on doors. I would canvass. We would have a grassroots movement, and you don't even need that many people to just go around and get your message out, get your name on the ballot. And it's so sad that like these, you know, my thing is, even if I were to do that and then like let's say lost, which is always possible, especially when you're talking about US elections where the person who has the most money usually wins. Um, and of course, there have been some exceptions, but still, what's so disturbing to me is that you have a bunch of what's the way of putting it? A bunch of these people who just they don't even seem like they want your vote. Like they don't. Again, no rallies, no flyers, nothing. They just expect you to vote for them. They're like, hey, well, I'm in this blue district, right? So I just put a D by my name, and everybody will support me. And I find that really sad. I think people should actually run like they mean it when they're trying to get elected to anything really. My grandparents actually lived down on Florida and they had their vacation home destroyed by that hurricane. Yeah, a lot of people had their property upended. I'm sorry that happened to them. You don't think it's scary that like if you live in a certain place, you can just expect this giant tornado to show up and destroy everything? And maybe you'll have some warnings about it, right? Somebody will say, hey, you need to get out of here, you know. But if you live in a certain area, you can just expect a random tornado to just show up and destroy your property, and that'll be it. Oh well, too bad. Go somewhere else. That's really scary. But yeah, my position on this stuff is very controversial because I think people who want to get elected to things should have to earn your votes. I tell you, I'll never forget the Alabama. I think that was the 2014 Senate race where you had this person who'd been there for like 3 terms, always had an opponent from from the opposition party, and for that time they didn't even bother running anyone. So he ended up winning with like 97% of the votes, not because he had such a crappy challenger, because they didn't even try. And it's like that's what drives me crazy, that the party that rejects climate change, that by and large tells you the environmental stuff is a hoax, you shouldn't believe it. These are the same people who are more organized than the one that believes it. I mean, you look at the GOP, they have like 30 governorships. Like they it, it'll never not astonish me that they're kicking the other side's butt. in election after election from this on the state and local level. And again, it's not because their candidates are so great and they're amazing and they're all inspiring and they're doing all this stuff for their district and helping their people. And no, it's because the other side either runs no one or they run garbage. They run people who have nothing to stand on, nothing exciting. It's sad that in our democracy, people are winning elections basically because there's no one to contend or contest them. They get a bunch of endorsements from their little buddies, and then they go off to victory, and then that's it. They're in. They're in, and they don't have to acknowledge you. They don't have to say anything about the stuff affecting you. They don't have to pay any visits to your district, hold any town halls, because they know that when they run again in 2 years, there will be no one challenging them, and they will be easily reelected to another term where they can sit around and do nothing for another 2 years. Told you I read the governor of Florida's memoir, and he had this thing about term limits night. And one of his things was, if people are only serving a few terms, then they won't be such careerists, and they'll actually try to get something. That's like, well, that's actually not true because a lot of these people jockey from position to position. Um, for example, there have been multiple members of Congress where after serving two, three, four terms in either like the House or the Senate, they go and run for governor. Or you have governors who, after serving two terms and they can't run anymore for governor, they go and they run for senator. So this idea that people are suddenly going to start caring about their constituents when they have a limit on how long they can be there, again, just buffoonery. Like I said, what really needs to happen is people need to have opponents that are challenging them on issues. Um, And you just have to make it harder for them to get away with this stuff. They need mass protests at their office. There has to be an actual push to get them to do something. Oh God, I tell you. Hey, Akatsuki merchant, I heard you want to run for the house. Don't worry about representing your constituents. Just know I'm going to endorse you, and my friend is going to endorse you, and the governor is going to endorse you, and the secretary of state's going to endorse you, and nobody will run against you that anybody even knows or is familiar with. So you'll get in, you'll be a shoe in to get in there. Oh man. No, people are always just they drive me crazy with some of this stuff, I tell you. This guy said, roughly, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, he said, "Oh, um, it's too bad that we don't have more people defeating, incumbents or, like the candidates that are backed by the establishment." I said, "Well, just because someone's not part of what is already a toxic group doesn't mean they themselves are good or that they have different positions." I said before, look at the Alabama Senate race from what was that, 2017? You had Strange, who was endorsed by Trump, right, sitting president, and then you have this nut job with Roy Moore that was, the former Supreme Court justice from for that state, and he defeats Strange despite the letter being endorsed by the president, but he's got all the same positions as him. I'll never forget that election. I still can't believe that they actually ran this person who had all of these. And to be fair, they didn't we didn't find out this stuff until after the primary. But this person who had all of these allegations about him touching underage girls, and he just barely lost. That's how lousy the Dems are. Like they're in states where you can run someone with accusations like that, and accusations that definitely had an impact on how many people turned out for it, and they still just barely defeat that person. That's why when he ran again in what was that, 2020, I thought he was going to win because all of those people that accused him kind of just vanished after the election was over, which tends to happen a lot with accusers. They just, I guess, hide in the hole or whatever. And it seemed like he was going to come back and defeat the person that beat him, a little rematch. Instead, when he was in the primary, he got, I think, how much was that? Let's see, it was 200,000 for the stupid mayor, not mayor, the stupid coach Tumberville, and then Sessions ran again, so he split it with him, and then Moore was in like fourth place. You went from being able to win the primary to not being and losing the general by a hair to being able to what you call it, run again and then lose the primary and not even not even make it out of that. That's crazy. That's why I said, man, elections over here are just such a joke. Like the people that run and the stuff they're campaigning on, it's like, hey, I have the exact same positions as this other person. Pick me over them. And now we're getting to a point where every time you run against somebody and that person loses, they accuse you of rigging it against them. So if they win, it was a free, fair election, and everyone was correct in their analysis and coverage and whatnot. But if they lose, it was rigged. The state was against me. The whole country is against me. They're all trying to screw me out of my votes. I mean, it's I can't tell you how many times in the last like 3 or 4 years I've seen someone go, "Oh no, this was rigged. This was stolen. They took this from me." and they all break their promises and have some other plans. Well, a lot of them don't even make promises to begin with. I mean, I'm telling you, the last election, I have a new congressperson. I did not see them at all. They didn't make any town halls. Um, like they just again won because they were endorsed by all the major players in the politics of this state, the governor and the rest of the crew. And that's kind of it. They win because a bunch of people with higher name recognition endorse them, and no one of any significance runs against them. So they just win by default. And it drives me crazy because a lot of this stuff is so sad as it's them taking advantage of people not paying attention to these things, right? And being able to make careers for themselves out of not representing the people that they're elected to represent, and the people just not paying enough attention to like organize against them. Because you don't even have to run someone else to like put pressure on these people. You can have marches, sit-ins at their office, calling their office over and over. There's a whole bunch of stuff people can do. The problem with a lot of that outrage though is that it's all short-sighted. Like they'll get people will get mad over like one vote and they'll be like, I'm never voting for this person. I'm done with them. And maybe it's like 2 or 3 years later and everybody forgot about it. Like I remember when I think it was while they were trying to repeal the ACA. It might have been around that time, but the senator from Iowa, they were telling her, this is your last term at her rally, not rally, at her town hall. And she ran again 3 years later and won. And no, and when that campaign was going on, no one was talking about you know, oh, you voted against this thing that we really like. I said before, a lot of times when they win, they're running against someone who's not even like charismatic at all, like in any capacity. It really is just a thing of, well, this person's not great, but the other one's not good either. So pick your poison. Wow, I hope these guys aren't getting paid to keep quiet because some of these guys actually tackle some issues. Well, here's the thing, right? Some of them will say they're for something, and then when they get in there, they do nothing about it. Like, I can't tell you how many politicians that run in this state will talk about the homeless problem because there's a lot of homeless people here and not do anything when they get elected. I can't tell you how many will say, oh man, we need to have more people covered under healthcare. And when they get in, either do nothing or sell out to pharmaceutical companies so they can jack up the prices on people when they buy medicine. You don't see an effort to actually be there for regular people, which is why I said that it's so sad that a lot of times these local elections people don't pay attention because if enough people got together, these guys would be gone. That's why I said my elections in America are one of the sloppiest, dumbest things ever. Yes, and funny enough, there are more homeless. I'm telling you, man, these if you saw some of the things they say and then the things they do, it's really sad. But a lot of them get away with again the fact that people don't pay attention to stuff as much as they should. And also that unfortunately we have a corrupt corporate news media that doesn't really talk that much about pretty local news is dying. So local news would be more inclined to cover your members of Congress, your senators, whatever, your governor, but instead they're like slowly being faded away. So anything that has to do with your local area is going to be something you're less likely to hear about, which is very dangerous because um I mean, there could be a serial killer in your neighborhood and you wouldn't even know. I already said before, I don't know how people just don't watch the news. I still think that's crazy, but whatever. Ugh, that's just my personal pet peeve. No programs to get people back on track, drug free and everything. Well, people who get addicted to drugs, you could say a lot of that stuff has to do with rehabilitation, but the problem is the US is a place where mental health is not really considered. I mean, it's stigmatized. And you have a bunch of politicians, unfortunately, especially when there's a mass shooting, when they don't want to do anything about guns, they'll go, oh, we need to address the issue of mental health and people and their state of mind. But then what do they do after a few weeks or months have passed? Nothing. They don't introduce any bills to make mental health services more accessible to people who need it. They don't provide any funding for such a program. Nothing. Just not. They don't care. It's just a smoke screen to get away from something else that they'd rather not be talking about. They still have social media, which is what almost everyone uses for info. No, there are some people that don't go online. Like people might use the internet maybe to, do certain things, but there are people who don't have Facebook or Twitter or any of that stuff. So if they don't watch the news, either because they choose not to or the local news is being bought out or phased out, that's really dangerous. So not everyone uses the internet. And even if you're on social media, there are still people who don't follow police departments and any of these stations. So unless someone retweets it that happens to live around where they do, they're still not going to see it. Like I watch the local news. I don't follow them on Twitter. Man, Akatsuki merchant he just passed away. He he walked up out of here. He said, "This stream is boring. I'm out." No, I know you're over there falling asleep. I mean, like I said, for me, the biggest problem I had was that elections are they're just something that I think people should pay more attention to. And I'm very serious when I say that a lot of stuff would be better if we had because I was like talking about the current stuff with Biden and Williamson, right? His primary challenger. And I was saying that in an actual functioning, vibrant democracy, you would have the DNC set up. It could be four debates, five debates, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 between Biden and whoever challenges him over the course of a year. several months, so people can actually get a feel of the candidates and then make their choices. But instead, what corporate media and the DNC are going to do together is simply ignore his challenger, just not say anything. Just the president has announced his reelection. That's it. Now, if they were actually telling the truth, they would say, "Hey, he has competition from this other person, and this one is concerned." But they don't say anything about that because they don't want you to know about it. And that's why I said a lot of people, when they win an election, they're running against people that no one's ever heard of. That unless that person or some surrogate for them, like campaign surrogates, like someone that's affiliated with them, comes and knocks on their door and says, "Hey, have you heard about this person? They're running for this off." Unless you do that, they won't. They'll never know who you are, and that should really be scary because, again, what is the point of having news and TVs, radios, if we're going to have people who, when they're trying to get their message out as someone who is a respective candidate for an office, has no access to them? How is that good? But again, this stuff is all part of the same stupid scheme where when you have an ignorant population, and ignorant doesn't mean stupid, but it means people who just genuinely do not know about something, you can pull the wool over their eye and go, "Oh, well, I guess you thought this was this," or, "Oh, here's this person who actually, man, they have some people that like what they're saying and they have some positions that might help people. Let's make sure that nobody hears about it." It's just really scummy, man. It's scummy, it's dangerous, it's screwed up. Any term you want to use. Oh man, this person is running and they're actually doing pretty well. Let's make sure we don't say anything about them. You don't think that's crazy that we have all these issues that are real and the way that they get away with this stuff like not being addressed is just to not say anything about it? Like, "Oh, we have all of this job creation and oh my god, the economy is so great, but we also have 63% of Americans who live paycheck to paycheck." Shh. Be very, very quiet. Hey, the US believes in democracy and human rights. That's why we're allies with an apartheid state such as Israel that displaces people from their homes and treats those same people, the Palestinians, like trash, as well as Saudi Arabia, a country that literally sees women as second class citizens. And we're really only friends with these countries because we give them money and they give us military support, and it's all based around money. But shh, be very, very quiet. Dude, I'll tell you, the Israel thing is the most one of the most obnoxious parts of modern politics. Like, imagine criticizing a country and its policies, right? You don't say anything about anybody's religion. You're anti-Semitic. No, you're like, what? So I say, hey, Netanyahu is a very bad person who's been involved with many of the worst atrocities committed toward Palestinians for the last 20 something years. You're anti-Semitic. Huh? So, it's just, and again, those are the types of things they can say as part of their smear campaigns to mislead people on what your positions are. But really, it all just comes down to the same old stuff, which is when people don't want to address something, they either disingenuously, as which is the case when you call someone anti-Semitic for critiquing a government, or are just entirely dismissive of something else. They don't want to acknowledge it whatsoever. I tell you, man, I don't, like it's just so weird. No one's even talking about Jewish people. Like no one here has a problem with Jewish people. We're talking about human rights violations, but whatever. Gotta churn out the coins for the empire, you know. I'm not even joking. You just might as well just give up on having a conversation about this stuff. Because too many people are just not serious. They don't want to actually talk about something in a insightful manner. They're just there to throw around terms that are not actually true, or it's sad. I feel really bad for Williamson because like I just can't imagine how you can have someone running for the most powerful office in the whole land. They're the only person who's announced so far, even though incumbent hasn't announced yet. And your strategy is just to not cover them whatsoever. And if you do mention them, you're dismissive, you're laughing, you're giggling. But that's that's not something that should be normalized. That's really pathetic. And it truly is an L for the whole US, because if we have such strong leaders and great candidates, why are they afraid to have their opponent acknowledged? No, if I really thought that someone had no chance of winning and I'm running against them, go, yeah, let them talk on TV for an hour. I don't care. Bring them on your show, let them spew their stuff. Oh man. The funniest thing to me is that I was just thinking about just how elections over here are, and I was amazed that so much of it, because like I get where if a person is running for governor, like if you ran for governor here, you're talking about needing 5-6 million votes. Like there's no way one person can cover the whole state over some months, right, and talk to that many people. But what drives me crazy is that we've gotten to a point where you can have a district where, let's say, you need 100,000 votes, right? Like, yeah, that's a lot, but it's still not that giant to where, you know, if you multiply you and a short number of people, maybe two, three, four, five, six, that's an entirely coverable area that someone can do. And I was sitting there, I was thinking to myself, isn't it sad that like because established people in this stuff have resources. They have um volunteers, right? They have supporters, as far like the ones that people that know them who will do stuff for them. And it's like I just can't get over that you can have all of this support, all this backing, but then we don't see you in the district. We don't see you showing up here. How does that work? You have all this support, you're leading in the polls, but what it is, it's the ego. They think they're too good to canvass. They think they're too good to knock on doors and go, "Hey, look, I want your support." Da 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 da. They don't do that because they know that they're not being challenged by anyone of any seriousness, or at least they think that. So They would rather just sit in their little mansion and, you know, not say anything. Oh man, it's all just really sad. I feel really bad for Akatsuki Merchant because if his keyboard had been hit with all that water and he was sitting over there drinking that ice cold lemonade, and then all the ice evaporated after a few hours and came back with a vengeance and destroyed his laptop, he would be typing right now. So rest in peace, Akatsuki Merchant's laptop. I hope that you're in a better place now. Oh man. Yeah, after this week, I don't want to go to the DMV ever again. I guess what drives me crazy is you can show up there at 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning, as early as you can. You can show up there the minute they open, and you just won't be able to get in there. You'll have this big line, and you'll be sitting around with your number, and you'll be like, "Are you serious? Why is it taking so long?" Tell you, these places are. It's like everything is made to be as complex and overly sophisticated as possible. Not even overly sophisticated, just just mind-numbingly. Let's go way of putting it. Um, I guess advanced or tedious, where you can start to feel like you're on the equivalent of a goose chase, where you go here, it's not there, but it might be in there. It felt like when you play a Mario game and like your princess is in another castle, like your thing you need is in another location. And this saga went on for a whole week. Man. Yeah, people are really weird. I just think that the DMV needs reform. Like they need to have shorter lines. People who actually know what they're doing. Like I had two employees, I kid you not, tell me different things in the span of like 2 days. One says sign this, the other one says no, you don't have to. Just I don't like that because I feel like whenever someone goes somewhere to get something done, they're probably going to defer to the people that work there with the expectation that the people who work there know what they're doing. So if you show that you don't know, then who is the person supposed to trust? Hey, I'm an expert on. Well, I'm working for this company. What do you need help with? Oh, do I sign this? Yeah, and then you go to somebody else. Oh, why did you sign this? The other person told me. Oh, you need to do that. It's just annoying. Because the worst part is when you mess up on a document over there, you have to fill out the whole thing again. Like it's not like, oh, we scrape. Hey, you made a mistake. It's all right. We just scrape this one part out. No, you have to restart from the beginning and do the whole thing again. And that's really annoying. It's like, hey, I hope you like doing it once. Now you can do it twice. Every time I go up to that place, I just feel so irritated. It's funny because a lot of times I'll be like, oh, well, I can still do something while I'm there. I can just bring a book. And then I'll it'll always be like the day where everything is moving quick, where I don't need it, or like I don't have enough time to even like sit down or like do it really fast. And the days where I don't bring one, it takes forever. It's like, hurry up, go. Because I remember how someone said, you should try to make every minute count and you only live once, all the rest of that stuff. But it sometimes it really feels like things are set up in such a way that you can only just sit there. I guess maybe that's part of the reason why I've never been that big a fan of going to church, just because I just feel like so, I don't want to say bored, but like there's just a lot of other stuff I want to do, and sitting there and just listening to someone talk about um, you know, the Bible, it's just it's not something I'm really that interested in. I know that's heresy, but that's just how I feel. I really, a lot of times, and what's weird is that I've gone to like rallies for some candidates, for example, and like not felt bored. But that's just because the audience is like excited and people are screaming and yeah, and like showing, some enthusiasm. In the case of a lot of the church stuff, it's just people sitting there, and this person comes out in their monotone voice and talks about Apostles 32. And I just I'm again, people are fine to like what they like. It's just never been something I've really been that much into. And I've also said before that I try to tell the truth about stuff. Um and that's one of the reasons why I'm not really into going to church. It's just I don't know. I guess I'd rather show as a believer the act of being a decent person to others. Um and if that's not enough, then oh well. Mm. Like I said before, it's a wacky world we live in. No, you already said that once. We need some new comments. We need some fresh, original comments that are not retreads of past statements. I'm not even joking. Like I've tried so hard to will myself to go to church, and I just can't do it. Like it's difficult to show up there and like sit there and listen to that stuff for, what is it, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? I just can't. Like I don't know. It's hard whenever you have something that you don't have to do, and it's not really exciting, or there feels like there's a specific thing there that you're interested in. Like, yeah, I want to hear this. I just kind of, it's just whatever to me, you know? Like I said, I believe in God. I just don't believe that I have to sit up there every Sunday and listen to the various preachers. Oh, dude, that's another like taboo topic. The preacher, the priests and the preachers and just the the whole corporatization of that too, where you'll go to some church and the preacher who's supposed to be the servant of God and that was merciful and whatnot, that person will show up and they're driving some sports car or some other like really expensive car where they turn being religious into this profit game for them. Oh man, that's a whole other subject to get into. Pastors that line their pockets or the ones that do horrible stuff to kids. It's interesting how there's a lot of priorities that are just not considered, and like you'll have more people get mad at me for like saying what I just said right about I don't really like to go to church. Um, you'll have more people get mad at me for saying that than people that are mad at priests for doing things to children or turning a profit, a very large one at that, from something that's supposed to be about their faith. It really is a wacky world where like the person who says I'm not really into going there that much will get more pushback than the people who do things to kids. Like that's that's crazy. I've seen some people actually try to insult others for not because they don't believe in anything. It's like, my thing is, I would say that my own religious beliefs are part of stuff that happened when I was in my youth and personal experiences. And with me, I've always felt that if someone's experiences cause them to support or think of another religion as theirs or just believe in, none of them, it doesn't bother me. Only time you'll see me get upset with someone's religions if they try to, force it on me or whatever. But other than that, I just don't care. There's a lot of important stuff in this world, and I don't have the time to sit here and wag my finger because someone's not Catholic or, any other denomination. Mm. I know a guy and his girlfriend turned into a hardcore Christian and left him, but he was a weirdo too. Don't know what exactly happened there. I'm not even joking. There was this one woman that I was in, our girl or whatever I was interested in when I was in I think either 10th or 11th grade, and one of the things she said was that I was too Catholic. I was like, "What?" I'm telling you, man, if you get turned down by a woman, they'll pick any old goofy thing to say or use as that it's God, you're too religious for my taste. They just pull something out of their bum as an easy excuse. And what drives me crazy is if you don't like somebody, just say you don't like them. Say, look, it's not like a decent person, but I'm just not interested. That's what I would say, if the situation were reversed. So I don't understand the logic of like making all these weird reasons. It's that's why I said, man, chicks of the modern era are just scourge, man. Like a really rotten group. Like I was talking about how over the last 5 years, I kept noticing this pattern where with a lot of them, you'll speak to one of them for let's say a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, and they go, "Hey, I've liked speaking to you and typing. Can we have a call?" I don't really feel comfortable talking to you voice to voice. And I'm not joking. You can talk to some of those bastards for like 7, 8, 9, 10 months, and they'll still be holding out on letting you speak to them voice to voice. And it's so weird because, like I'm telling you, before going online, I never saw that. Like I don't know like anyone in real life where they're like, I don't want to speak to you voice to voice. It's only especially out of the guys I spoke to, it's only these weird chicks on the computer or um I don't know, maybe there's some that do it in real life too, but it's weird. I don't want to talk to you voice to voice. I don't do VCs. I don't do phone calls. But maybe I might change my mind later in 2 or 4 or 6 or 10 or 12 months. They're probably talking to a bunch of men at the same. Oh yeah. Well, remember, shh. Be very, very quiet. We don't need it. We don't need people to know about the external factors of these chicks that talk to 5, 10, 30, 50 guys at once. And that was something that I'm always going to bring up because when you're online, people try to make you seem like you're the worst person that ever lived if you can't get with a woman. And they never mention the external factors. Like you'll never hear them talk about um, all the different guys that she might be speaking to. Or, I mean, you have chicks that won't date someone because of their race, which, I mean, they have the right to not be attracted to someone because they're whatever, but still, that's something you have no control over. But these guys that go on here and defend them, they'll never mention that stuff. You won't hear one peep from them about that. They'll try to sell you this bag of BS that if you work on yourself and wear this or whatever, now you magically can attract every single woman on earth, and it's so stupid, man. Oh man. Dude, that woman stuff is just people have really allowed it to destroy their minds. Self-improvement channels are the funniest. I mean, I already said before, working on yourself as a concept is not a bad thing, but the idea that you do it so you can attract some random broad who doesn't have to do anything to appeal to you, I think is nuts. Like, and even the people that defend that stuff are stupid too, because there was a person, they claim they're a woman, but I don't believe that. They were like, uh, you have to wear well, women have to wear makeup and high heels, and I said, what are you talking about, you bimbo? Because literally, I used to go to Catholic schools all the way up until my last year of high school. And I'm telling you, they didn't wear any of that stuff, and there were still boys that were attracted to them. So You get where it's like a false equivalency, like, they wanna tell you that there's supposedly standards for women, but then you go outside and you see all types of chicks that you wouldn't even look at who are with some man. She that person really said they have to wear high heels. I was like, "What are you talking about, you stupid bastard? Oh my god." That's like a clown of the century award contender there. Yeah, man. If you have the golden the terrific, never before seen, oh so rare triangle, you don't have to do anything. You just make an account online, you post a picture of yourself, and then men will try to talk to you. I met a lady, she might have posted on her, it was she was running some old um account that was all in love with some politician. And I'll never forget, she might have posted maybe 5 pictures of herself, and it wasn't anything like, scantily clad or whatever, but just her looking into the camera, right? And she told me that well, rather not told me, but, made public mention of the fact that she had had 10 men ask her out on dates, like, on her account, and I was thinking to myself, it's crazy to me that, because like the accounts where it's just the chicks post on nasty pictures, as bad as that is, I get it. Like I understand where they're selling their appearance, so a bunch of these guys are gonna wag their tongue out like dogs. But when you're talking about a lady who's just posting stuff about the news, and then maybe every now and again she shows what she looks like. And by the way, I showed her picture to my best friend. He said, she's not hideous or anything, but I like that's really someone that's gonna have 10 guys all lusting after her from seeing a few pictures, really. And I told him if it hasn't sunk in already, you can tell that there are no standards for women. There's no self-improvement for them. They're all fine as they are. And if you're a guy, you're supposed to just, you know, jump through hoops to get with one of them. This is a feminist society, and you ain't in it. I tell you, that last job I had, the assistant manager really thought I just was single by choice. I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to date anybody. Yeah, believe what you want." Like just decided to create this fan fiction, you know. But that's one of the biggest problems with that group. That there's a lot of narrative creating. The thirsty guys really messed up the dating market. Well, the problem is there's not much of a market to begin with when you have a bunch of chicks that are not reciprocating with a majority of the men that are interested in them. It's just sort of it's like someone having a bunch of flies twirling around them, and all the flies think they're going to get a nice treat or bite from this person, and then the person pulls out some spray and just all of them are gone. Or instead of pulling out the spray, the person just lets them all fly around, orbiting all these different guys, flying around. Zzz, 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 zzz. Dude, I'm telling you, if you saw some of the stuff I've seen on places like Twitter, and I mean, I remember there was a lady who used to just post about, and I'm telling you, she had this old look, and I'm not talking about her appearance, but I'm talking about the picture. She had this old looking picture that you could tell was taken from how small it was, probably like 20, 30 years or so, really old picture. And she would just post about the news, right? Um, and one day she put up a public tweet and she was like, "Hey, can you get you thirsty, weird guys get away from me. I'm not interested in you. Leave me alone." And I said, "How crazy is it that you have a person in her case who these guys are looking at an old picture of her, a picture that like any I think any reasonable person can tell is old, right? And they're attracted to her from it. They're trying to send her a message. Hi, how are you doing? That's why I said, man, this woman stuff it really has destroyed people's minds. And there's a part of me that feels sympathetic toward the guys because if you're not getting anything from chicks, your default um action as someone who wants to, receive something from them is to go out and make it known who you're attracted to. And we're told to like we're encouraged to go out and ask out chicks that don't like us and then set up to fail. But you go out and you do this stuff and then you get nothing back and you just all you end up doing is wasting your time and boosting the ego of another one of them. So in that regard, I understand them. I don't agree with it, but I get it. I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't bother or that I don't like, I said before, I think it's a waste of time, but if somebody else wants to do it, I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong for wanting to have something they think that they'll enjoy. Because, like I said, I get the base instinct of people wanting to be with someone and, you know, um, what's a good way of putting it? To enjoy the company of a partner, right? I get where that sounds appealing. I get where someone wants it. I understand that. And for that reason, I'm not raining down too hard on them, but it still is like at a certain point, when do you pick up on the fact that they are either never going to be interested or the amount of effort it takes to get one of them interested isn't worth it. Like I said, when I was doing my video, I was like, I'm supposed to ask out a bunch of women who more likely than not are going to say no because that's what they've always done. And then I'm supposed to talk to people whose knee jerk reaction is going to be to blame me for whatever they do. And this is supposed to go on until what 2030, 40, 50. Like I don't get it. There's got all things have to have some conclusion and there just doesn't seem to be a positive decent one for that romance stuff. It's not going in a direction that has any validity to the idea that things are going to get better. Like I said, there's certain patterns we can pick up on, and if you're getting turned down every single year just to be harassed by other men who want to blame you no matter what these women do, I would just say to hell with it. Talking about self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. Guys, at a certain point, we all just get tired of stuff staying the same, even if we've tried everything to make it different. We all gradually just get sick of that because it's not fun. Just like I had this game I was playing. I wouldn't say what game it was. I'm not gonna say it. I was playing this game and I was having a fun time with it. And I got to this one level, and on this level, you have to fish. Totally different gameplay from every other part of the game. And I'm telling you, I sat there with that thing for like a whole hour. I was clicking the buttons on the keyboard. I'm trying so hard to grab this thing. And at a certain point, I just got tired of it. Like I was like, why is this part so much harder than the other segments of the game? So, maybe one day I'll pick it back up and try to play it and beat it. But if I don't feel bad because I tried. I tried for 2, 3 hours, and I just you can't expect someone who keeps getting the same results to have this indefinite desire to do something. It just doesn't work. Mm. Let me see what else is here. Mm. Like I said, it's sad that things are the way they are. It really is because people I don't think it should be normalized for a guy to have to ask out several dozen or dare I say 3-digit number of women. Like I just don't think that should be a thing people should get used to and encourage someone to keep doing forever. And I don't think it's right to harass and attack somebody over women not liking them or what all of it is just based around taking this thing that was supposed to be enjoyable because relationships, especially romantic ones, you're supposed to like them and want to be in them because you enjoy the person's company, you like being with them, whatever. Instead, it's just like a carrot being dangled in front of your face, the idea of being with a woman, and then every time you reach for it, it gets further and further away, and you get blamed or attacked over a choice that wasn't yours to make. So, they're just a really terrible group that I'm just trying to stay away from at this point. Too much stupid stuff has happened with them for me to still be, trying to catch the carrot. It's just a hassle. Yeah, but it doesn't have there's no reason for it to be that way. Because like I was given this example, I said, if I went out and asked out a famous woman and I had to like go through her publicist, find out what events she went to, and all that just to get turned down, I would understand. And everybody who said she was too good for me, I would go, yep, that's true. Too good for me in movies, whatever, shows, on TV. I agree. Too good for me. But when you're talking about some random lady that no one's ever heard of, I'm talking about some chick that we don't know who this person is, and everyone's like, she's too good for you. She's out. You're like, what? Really? Huh? That's why I said that it doesn't make sense to me from a logical standpoint why it should be this hard to get a date. Like it doesn't register to me as something that makes sense. Like logically makes sense to have random women be this hard to get a date with. I just don't agree with. I think it's really crazy and people have lost their minds and they've normalized something dumb. And it's really unfortunate because I think people are supposed to be around to make each other's lives better, because we as human beings need communication, or that's something that we're told. So if people are just going to be just obnoxious and annoying, then we really don't have a desire or need to be around them. That's why I said all those advice channels are pretty much replications of the same general philosophy, which is this idea that you're supposed to go through this extraneous transformation for the sake of appealing to someone who has never had to appeal to you whatsoever, on any degree of actually having to do something. Okay. Salad wrote, they are all superstars in their little social media bubbles. That's where the attitude comes from. Yeah. And it's an unearned attitude because there's plenty of guys who have 5,000 followers, a 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, and you don't see them, being propped up as he's too good for you. In fact, what happens a lot of times is that you'll have a male content creator who people know is dating someone, And then if he breaks up with her or if she breaks up with him, they'll blame the guy. They'll be like, "Oh, she was too good for you and you messed it up." Because that's what people do. It's always the man's fault every time. And they think it's normal to sit here and take this group of random women and prop them up like they're better than you or I when they've never as a collective done anything that puts them in that position. So it's really crazy. It's really nuts that they're able to get away with something like this. Just this desire to sit here and act as if they're better than somebody else. Again, for nothing, for nothing, for nothing. Just you have a bunch of these random guys, right? Come and say something, and then they prop them up, make them seem like they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, but they're not. And people will get mad at you for just telling the truth. Like if you like we do a video like this, we don't say it's all of them. We say I even acknowledge there are certain ones that if someone said they were out of my league, I would agree with it. And you'll still have people that misrepresent what I say. You're an I word, but they'll never acknowledge that now with what that's I did a news story is like 2 weeks ago, right? That showed where it's over 60% of young men in America are single and half of us don't even bother. So it's if you're a guy and you're not like past 30, unfortunately, it's very normal to just not be with a woman at this point if you live here, probably in other countries too, because women as a collective, especially um, in ones that have existed since the social media boom, are just a rancid, rotten, wasteful group. And one of the themes of the video I was thinking of doing is that it would just be talking about how for so long I had these people that tried to make it seem like I was this weird person, right? With all these character flaws and all the rest of the fatal flaw nonsense. But when you see that statistic and now you have a number to put to it, no, you can't float that narrative anymore. Because really, it actually, if you wanted to argue something, it would be more weird for me to be with a woman than to be single, since now we know that it's only like 30% of guys that are considered young that are with one. So it's been a really interesting time because I never would have predicted they would actually compile data about something like that. But they did, and now we have a number to attach to our discontent. It's sad because my cousins always tease me about not having a girlfriend. Like, dude, I can't make a girl be my girlfriend. She has to choose that. Or remember that their purpose as a collective group is to be used as ammo for people to attack you over and for them personally to like individually to waste your time. So I'm not surprised your cousin would insult you over that because these people really believe you can just click your heels and oh, a woman likes you. So I'm not. it's unfortunate. I'm sorry that your cousin decided to treat you in that manner. I really am because again, I think that there are certain things we're all to an extent not comfortable with being made fun of or teased over, and that probably is one of them for you. Um, so it's really unfortunate. Well, it's time for those 60% to start getting shredded bodies. I wouldn't even bother doing that stuff. Shredded bodies. Be rich and tall. Dude, height does not matter. God. When you are taller than the average person and you get rejected, you know it doesn't matter, but whatever. Hey, my favorite thing from last year relating to that woman stuff is probably when I was working at that last place I worked from, and I asked the lady if I could have like her email or some way to keep in contact with her because I enjoyed when we would speak like during the workday, but we had two. I was part of a different branch, so I didn't like have a shared break with her. I would have to, it was hard to speak for longer than a few minutes without one of us being called to work. And I sent her an email saying hello, and then she's like, "Oh, me and my boyfriend are traveling." And I'm like, why did you have to ruin this? Like, but that's another problem that a lot of women have this, because like people talk about misogynist men, right, who believe that women are inferior, but there's a lot of chicks who think that men are all like homogenized. We're all trying to get with them. We all have these like master schemes on how we're going to corral them. This woman literally was asked for her email by me. My message was, "What are your hobbies?" That was the part after I introduced who I said who I was, identified myself, and she completely ignores a very basic question I'd ask of anyone I'm trying to get to know, to tell me that she's going and traveling with her boyfriend. So after that message, my interest in talking to her just went down like this. It's the problem with modern chicks. They always think you're trying to be their boyfriend. If you even so much as breathe in their direction, they're like, I'm not interested. I don't want you. I don't want you either. I don't really care. It's not really the dig he thinks it is, because A, I don't want a girlfriend, and B, like I said, I can't make a girl my girlfriend. The idea of being desirable is a farce. Yeah, it is. And I wish people like listen, I've said before, all that self-improvement stuff, complete waste of time. Because you shouldn't have to perform specific actions for the sake of getting of for the supposed increased possibility of someone liking you. It's just not worth it. No one has to appeal to you, but you have to appeal to them. How crazy is that? How unfair is that? This woman sitting over here driving her bicycle, and she's gonna try, and you're supposed to drive a Lamborghini to impress her. Really? I'm gonna use that line in the video too. I just those double standards, man. They've reached like excessive levels of absurdity. I mean, I told you about the dingbat with the baby and how that was a person who at one point was unemployed and effectively homeless, and they still have a boyfriend. And I'll never be able to like quantify that when knowing I have people who are like, if you want a woman, you need to aim to make lots of money and have own this. It's like, dude, who are you trying to fool? Chicks don't care about money. We know. Well, excuse me, let me rephrase that. We have had multiple instances where women will date men who own nothing because they think they're attractive. I mean, look at the Jeremy Meeks case. Here's a guy who gets arrested, doesn't have a dollar in his pocket, but because his mugshot is considered attractive by women on a computer, he gets out and starts dating. What's the name for that word? Whatever the chick, the term for women that inherit something from somebody. It's like, you see that, and then people tell you you need money, and you're like, are you kidding me? Are you really trying to still sell that? You're really going to push that narrative? Seriously? For real? You're not playing? You're not joking? You're saying this with actual certainty? That's why I said, man, don't believe the stuff people tell you online about these things. Don't just take what someone says at face value, because a lot of times they're saying something that is not, that either can't be proven or is just incorrect. No, I wasn't trying to get you to care about getting one, Akatsuki merchant. If you don't want to date one, that's fine. I'm just saying I don't like the idea that you have this group of people who it's become very normal, right, for them to just not be attracted to damn near any guy that asks them out. And the women don't get ridiculed for having these ridiculous standards that nobody can meet, which is why majority of young men in America don't date one of them. Uh, they're instead it's the man's fault. Oh, you don't own this. Oh, you don't wear this. Oh, you and it's like again, the problem I have is people say this stuff and they think I care about like impressing them, but I don't care because I know that nothing I'm gonna make a comparison. I have this I give you an example. Let's say I am a Kotsky merchant's dad, and a Kotsky merchant likes to wear only red and green, I don't know, um, shirts. And I'm like, Kotsky merchant, you're always wearing those red and green shirts. I don't like that you always wear red and green shirts. So then the Kotsky merchant starts wearing blue. So then I'm like, well, I like the blue shirt, but I don't like the way your hair is. And da 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 da. So then Kotsky merchant gets this magic haircut that's so important. So he gets this too. And then after he does this, I go, well, Akatsuki merchant, I don't like that when these people come over to the place, to your home, you don't say anything to them, even though they're not there to see you. I'm mad at you, but not them for not saying anything to the person that lives here. It's somehow is rude of you, but not of them to not address the other, even though they're guests at your home and they should have to whatever. So after I complain about this, Akatsuki merchant starts speaking to people, right? Then after that, I go, Akatsuki merchant, I'm so glad you're talking to more and more people, but I really don't like the fact that what's the other thing that I don't like um your uh position on, and then that's when Akatsuki merchant goes back to wearing red and green, stops cutting his hair, and stops speaking to these people because now he knows that no matter what he does, whether he tries to meet me halfway, 75% of the way, I'm always going to complain about something because I am the type of person as his parent who can never be satisfied, who will take the most minor frivolous crap that doesn't matter and bump it up to levels of importance that it actually doesn't have and expects for my opinion to be something that he cares about, even though I have shown with great evidence that I couldn't care less about what he thinks. So that's why I said the self-improvement stuff for me is such a joke because the way that these guys function as a group of opposition to yours truly and to everybody else with this problem is they're not there to ever have a character arc or say, hey, you know what, man, look, you did this, that, and the other to get with this woman. She's nuts for saying no. You deserve better. You'll never see them say that because these people are not on your side. They don't care about you. All those channels running that stupid crap about you need to wear this and if you talk to her this way, that man, come on, we know how grifts work. They go and they say their stuff and people think that it's actually working, right? They want to believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel, so they go and they donate, and the person gets a whole bunch of money from scamming people with crap that does that they know doesn't work. So it's sad, man. This guy said I should go and get advice from I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want this to be taken. So it's like, well, I mean, if why would I want to model myself after him? Why would I want to apparently be single year after year until dating some woman who has 3 kids and then marrying her? Like I don't why would that be an appealing path or route for me, Because I already said before, I'm gonna have a whole segment on, like the crazy stuff with women and how um seriously, people never talk about the ways in which being with a woman can destroy your life. Like they don't talk about child support because we were discussing how marriage rates, like birth rates are decreasing, but marriage rates also have decreased. Um, and I was like, isn't it crazy that people sit here and they have like all this stuff occurring and they won't even mention it. Like it won't even get discussed in any capacity. And you think I'm kidding, but that that stuff with child support is no joke. I've seen guys like they'll go to jail over not paying stuff on time, even if they're not working. Like, and remember, the courts favor the woman, so that's why I said there's a lot of stuff with regard to the like when people tell you that relationships are just based around the woman and only what she believes is all that matters. They're not joking. Like if you ever actually dating or with one of them long enough to either produce a kid or to, have some other thing happen, um, you're gonna see a scenario where there's just a lot of stuff that's not right. Oh man, sorry about that. Apparently, there's something here for me. I'm gonna go see. Oh man. Oh, don't just love it when mail comes earlier than you thought it would. Ah. Yeah, that's why I don't even try to do all that self improvement crap. But you don't think it's sad that like you have whole groups of guys. Hold on a second. Ugh. You have whole groups of guys whose their like online persona is there's a light at the end of the tunnel and the magic woman will like you if you just do this, that, or the other. You don't think it's sad that that's like an actual belief system and doctrine that they push like this because like I get where people want to be like it's like sad, right, to sit here and be like, oh man, there's no chance of even ever getting with the woman. I shouldn't even like I get where that sounds depressing to people, but it's like in the alternative to that is to believe in this stuff that I mean it's either you just say forget it or you embrace this backwards fake feminist garbage of like the woman is better than you and you need to do these things to even hope to appeal to a single one like I don't know, it just seems like the alternative to what I believe is still like just as unappealing and it's asking you to do a lot of stuff for something that isn't worth it. It's like, yeah, get a six pack to go on a date. That's totally something that people do. I'm telling you, man, people are crazy. So I said it really is a lose-lose situation. You either embrace that this isn't going to get any better, or you embrace a ridiculous society that bends over backwards to women. Like pick your poison. I don't think either one of them is all too fruitful. Well, anyways, guys, I'm gonna get off of here and just go and run this last errand, and I'll be back on Monday, hopefully, because the the Wi-Fi has been so fluctuating that I never know if I'm gonna be able to stream again or if this will be the final stream of all time. This will be the last one ever. Not because I quit, but because the internet quit. The internet retired. All right, so I'll be back on Monday, hopefully, and we can discuss something else. So thanks for showing up, Akatsuki Merchant, Zeal. Let me make sure I say his name correctly. Salad. Have a good rest of your weekend.